Welcome to Witham Sounding Board, a podcast sharing powerful business tips, insights, and trends for those seeking to become a rock star in their industry.
AI Compass podcast, where we'll help you navigate on your HR and AI journey. I am Max Hervé from Witham Digital, and I will be bringing my text and AI experience. And with me is my co-host, Hernan Choso, who brings HR and people expertise combined with a technical background. Together, we're exploring how AI is reshaping the world of work, not on the distant future, but right now. So let's start with some quick intros here. So again, I'm Max Hervé. I work for Witham Digital. We're part of a accounting, tax, and advisory organization. My role is head of cloud engineering. So essentially what I do is I leverage companies' existing infrastructure to take them to the next level, whether it's an application, a device, usage topic. I try to reuse what they own and again, make it a better user experience for the organization. I've been doing tech work for the last 15 years or so. And what I'm really passionate about is solving business problems. I think a lot of tech people in the field go directly for a technical answer. But I think if you take a couple of steps back, it's very important to really understand the problem and not lead with technology, but lead with the problem instead. So that's a little about me. How about you, Hernan?
Thanks. Yeah. My name is Hernan Choso. I have a background as VP of Global Talent for a software technology company. Before that, I was a developer, which is kind of unique in the HR space. And now I am a founder at an HR innovation consulting organization called Productize HR, where I try to help particularly HR leaders to figure out their strategy and how to get better at things. So what I'm really passionate about, after being in HR leadership for more than 10 years, I'm very passionate about building the technology stack that I wish I had when I was there. So whether it is through the product management lens on HR or the right selection of technology or the implementation of AI, I'm there exploring what's coming next and how HR leaders can leverage that to have how to build a better HR organization and a better organization in general.
Thanks, Hernan. And love the background here, especially starting as a developer and then doing VP of HR work. It's definitely something unusual, and I think that brings a lot to the table here.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of what you're seeing in the field, right? What's the biggest myth you hear about AI in HR, and why is that wrong?
I would think the biggest one is that AI is here to replace HR. And the reality is that HR work requires a lot of context, a lot of judgment, a lot of empathy. And these are some things that AI cannot replicate. It can try to, but it will not be on point. So the idea is that AI is a tool that amplifies the work. It doesn't replace. It handles repetitive work. It frees up humans for strategy and more of that human connection. Mm-hmm. But one thing that is true is that it can and will take away tasks that are repetitive. And this will amplify the work that any single HR professional can do. These may result in having less seats to fill. But fully eliminating HR? No, I think that some of the tasks that AI will eliminate, no one will really miss. And I will go as far as saying that any tasks or jobs that can be fully replaced by AI, they were trivial to begin with.
And you're absolutely right. And in terms of people will not miss, let's say doing data entry 10 hours a day. I like the way you phrased it. And again, this is really an augmentation of your staff, right? Making your staff more efficient. making it more proactive instead of being reactive. And I think that will be, very, very good for organizations overall, because you'll be able to again get that extra workforce while keeping your staff in place. So really looking forward to seeing the changes as well.
What are the top 1 or 2 places where you feel that AI can actually remove pain rather than adding complexity?
Yeah, it's a great question, Hernan. And I always like to start very simple, right? And again, trying to explain to organizations what AI is without really getting too deep into the actual technology. So think of all the tasks your team is working on as, let's say, blocks, right? And let's say that those blocks are AI agents. Don't have to use that terminology necessarily, but let's just say they're agents. So in terms of having your team kind of go left and right to do work using multiple systems, that's not the most efficient way to do it. So instead, again, of doing so, your HR team can use, let's say, a chat box, and they do the onboarding right from that chat box. So in the back end, you've got those AI agents that are going to be routing your request to, let's say, IT, to finance, to the right team. If something is missing, the chatbot will, guide you in terms of its needs. And think about AI, right? What does AI do? It learns. So if you keep, let's say, you keep missing such information over and over, AI will know, oh, that's something that we need to know from the get-go. And it's going to get better and better. It's going to route, the request to the right person or group better and better. So that's usually an easy win, right? A user can just have the chat box, just type in like real text without having to, have the best prompt necessarily. Obviously, there are techniques to do better prompting, but just to start easy, nice and slow. And again, onboarding, I think, is a big item on the HR's plate, and just being able to interact with something that's very efficient will help the team.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the automation of administrative processes, that like anything that today you manage with a checklist, is probably a great candidate for automation using the help of AI. Anything that is repetitive, that is high volume, those are great candidates for AI capabilities. Also, anything that has to do with support of communications, things like brainstorming ideas, transcribing, summarizing, aggregating information, translating, transforming into different modalities. So transforming from audio to text to video, also nudging in the employee experience. Those are things where AI can enable the HR practitioners to do more and to do things that today are not done because simply we don't have the time.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And if we deep dive a little more in terms of the AI topic here, I feel like AI companies are very good at marketing, right? They're very good at doing demos, making announcements, but in terms of organizations, that does not necessarily relate to the day-to-day job that employees have to do. All right, so you've got AI doing, again, the marketing, showing you use cases, but again, who is doing it right today? What are the success stories from the field that you're seeing, Hernan?
Sure. Well, the first company that comes to mind is Zapier. They basically transformed their HR department. They put their HR function front and center, showing how they use their own tool to automate and to improve HR processes. So they have their chief people officer doing demos of how they leverage their automation tools to streamline HR processes. They have case studies of clients. So essentially, they are not just telling you how their tool can help companies do things, build things with AI. They are showing you by showing you their cases of how they are building the experiments that they are building. They have some very interesting examples that there's one person in their team specifically, Emily Maybe, who has been doing lots of demos and presentations on how to use AI in HR, and particularly automation. And another example that I can think of, I recently was at an event in New York City. It was at the recording of the Modern People Leader podcast, and I got to have some conversations with a chief people officer at Dropbox, and she mentioned some of the tools that they have built internally to experiment, like tests the limits of what HR can do for what AI can do for HR, from things that are at the individual level, like a manager setting up a bot where they feed all their context and the management principles and the priorities and goals, and even some of their personal communication styles, and then they use that bot as a proxy for the manager, so that if the manager was on vacation, somebody could have a conversation with that bot and get some insight in the style of the manager during the manager's absence. They also have periodical hackathons where a good portion of the team shows up and they show what each other are doing with AI, and they learn from each other. So I would say that those are big success stories of both the implementation at the individual level and also at the organizational level, because when you are thinking of AI adoption, you need to be thinking at that level, at how I as an individual make my job more efficient and more productive with AI, how my department becomes more efficient with leveraging technology, and how the organization as a whole becomes more efficient and productive.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Aaron. And so what we're seeing essentially is those large companies that have the workforce and the knowledge to deploy AI successfully. But if I'm a smaller shop, right, who's going to help me with AI, right?
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Right? Am I just going to kind of wait and have the competition deploy AI, and I'm going to kind of stay behind? Right. So that's also something that's unique, right? Most organizations are small businesses, but they have to adapt and pivot very quickly. So I think there's a gap there as well.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to my next question. So what do you feel is a common trap that companies fall into when they are implementing HR technology? What are the common pitfalls?
Well, I think, since there's so much buzz around AI that organizations think AI is the magic wand for all their problems, right? They think they're gonna buy AI, and they don't know what type of AI or what solution, but they want to buy AI, and everything will run smoothly afterwards. So that's the trap, right? They're leading with the AI concept. They find an AI vendor that promises everything, and they call it a day. So it does not work like this at all, right, in reality. In reality, I think in terms of implementing HR tech, people don't look at what they already own, right? So they may have, you could say, 5 to 10 different tools that cover HR tasks, and all those tools have redundancies, they have overlap, and they're just not aware, right? Those tools can be pretty massive. They have a lot of modules, and they need to understand what they currently own. Then they also, get stuck in long contracts sometimes, and they don't even know when those contracts end. So you've got that mishmash of overlapping tools, long contracts, and on top of this, you've got all those different tools that they own pushing their own flavor of AI, right? They're ingesting AI in application A, application B, application C. So it's quite complicated to kind of figuring out the best strategy, and I do think that people kind of forget about what they own and, the logistics, the investment that have been made, and they think, oh, we're going to get that single AI that will help out with everything and all the challenges that we currently experiencing. So my answer to this really is, let's get back to the business problems you're trying to solve. And what's the right approach to fix it? Is it AI? Not necessarily. It could just be simple automation. You go from point A to point B. You don't need that AI level of expertise within the organization to, learn from who is doing what and take it to the next level. Sometimes, again, simple automation, maybe a process change as well might be the right solution. But AI is very important, of course. Everybody needs to think about it. But AI is not the solution to every single problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like not having good clarity on the problem that you're trying to solve and just focusing on the shiny solution, it's not going to get you the results that you want. And particularly when every technology in your HR tech stack, every product tries to solve one portion of the problem, right? And I remember, and as we are recording this, HR Tech is happening in Las Vegas, and I remember going there a few years ago. And the biggest challenge that I had when talking to all those vendors was, I saw so many tools that solve a portion of the problems that I had. Right? If I had to buy everything, I wouldn't have any budget left at all. I would be in the negative with that. But not only that, but also I would have the information fragmented across multiple platforms and tools. And so I think that points to another challenge that it's a common trap, is not thinking how these applications are going to be communicating with each other, how these applications are going to be exchanging information, how you can maybe surface additional information by extracting information from the various tools that you're using, combining things that have to do with your user performance, with your user compensation, with your onboarding process, with your performance appraisals. All those things, when it comes to managing the experience of your employees, they are connected. And so if you treat them as silos, as this is a tool for this function, this is a tool for this other function, but they don't talk to each other, you're missing on a lot of opportunities for improving your team and your organization.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so that there's a lot of strategy that needs to come into play here. And most organizations, again, don't have that champion, if I may say. Maybe some people got some initial training, but that's just not enough. And sometimes it's also going to be driven by IT, right? They're going to find that tool. The CFO is going to approve that tool based on the budget, and HR is going to be left with that application. So all three parties need to be talking to each other as well. And you need to have someone in there helping, the organization navigate around all the staff, all the applications, and again, understanding kind of what's the big picture here of my organization, and where do I want to be in 3 years, in 5 years, where there's a lot of unknowns, but let's take baby steps to get to the best situation where we can be.
Yeah, and the key here is alignment between HR, the technology side, the finance side, because essentially you want something that is not only a fit to the task, but it also needs to be affordable for the organization, and it needs to be manageable. So the governance of what you're building needs to exist. And one more thing that I would say that is a big trap that companies fall into when implementing technology, and it's neglecting the adoption part of it. So if you think that just by launching a tool and saying that starting today it's going to be available, and your employees are going to start using it, you're wrong. You're not understanding how that happens. Any software implementation is a change management process. So you need to be able to execute all the activities and use all the tools that you have at your disposal with change management to make sure that people start using it and that you're learning from that process of using the tool.
Yeah, so there are a lot of moving pieces here, right? A lot of challenges. There's some fear from employees as well in terms of AI. Is that going to replace my job? So do you have any optimistic bit of news to share, about AI in HR? I know you attended that conference in New York City recently. So what would be your takeaway here in terms of, the bright future of AI in the HR tech space?
Yeah, I think that the main thing, particularly for HR practitioners, is I'm seeing this, especially in the startup environment, that HR practitioners and HR leaders are becoming more tech savvy, and they're having a lot of fun building their own tools, like vibe coding and building things. Of course, that needs to be tempered with the help of and the guidance of some more technical perspective that helps make sure that those things that are being built are secure and that you are not creating any kind of liability. But it's not often that HR has access to these tools, and now it does. The another big challenge is like I said, security, privacy, in governance, and that's something that most HR leaders are going to need some help with. But it's exciting that people are being able to build things that solve their problems, because it unfortunately happens a lot where HR teams, whenever a new tool is being implemented, they need to adjust to the tool rather than to the tool adjusting to them. So when a new tool is being implemented, you're asked to change the way you do things, to change the way you've always done things, without any visible improvement. You're just replacing one process with another without any visible improvement, and that is a cost that you're incurring into. I mean, that makes you less efficient because you're having to change the process, like I said, without any visible improvement. So that's I think that being able for HR leaders to be able to build their own things is a positive thing. And the other thing is that AI is slowly becoming more transparent. So it's still some of the responses from generative AI still can be unpredictable, but there's some new papers that try to explain a little bit more about how hallucinations happen and why. And there was another paper recently related to the variance that you get in the responses from even from using the same model. There's some variance there that can be difficult to implement when you're trying to make some things happen automatically. But now they are figuring out why those things happen, and they are trying to figure out how to prevent that. So I think that this increased transparency on how AI works, and organizations getting more mature about finding valuable use cases, because those use cases, when they are dictated by the vendor, they don't necessarily adapt to what you really need, what your real problem is.
Yeah, no, you covered a lot of great points here, Hernan, and almost sounds like there needs to be a new job out there called maybe like a CAIO, right? To be able to coordinate among the finance teams, HR teams, and AI teams as well. But yeah, it's not an easy journey, but it is a must-have journey, right? Which is why we started this podcast. So we covered a lot in a short time here, right? We talked about busting myths about AI in HR. We covered, some traps or some common traps to avoid, shared some success stories. But let's be honest here. HR leaders are not just passengers on the AI journey. They're in the driver's seat. So I really like the way you kind of wrapped it up, Hernan, with your optimism, right? This is not just a gloomy picture. There's a lot of opportunities for everyone out there. And you're already seeing some success stories and some companies winning because of AI. So this, again, was just a taste of AI in the HR workspace. There's a lot more to cover. Really looking forward to, having a second episode in the near future. Hernan, any final thoughts on your end?
No, I would say that the main advice that I can give to HR leaders is to just to stay calm in the face of this AI transformation, to own it, to work to build trust in it, because it's the future, and it's where we are going as organizations and as a society. It's a journey that you're going to be on, whether you want it or not. So you might as well own it and be able to try to drive it and to navigate that journey. And that brings us again to the name of this podcast.
Yeah, it's very wise advice here for all the HR leaders out there. So hope you all enjoyed this first episode. No, we covered a lot. But again, thanks for listening, and talk to you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you'll be first in line to hear what's coming next. Don't want to wait for our next episode? Check us out at withum.com. That's WITHUM.com.